So I don't know if this is a thing forever and always, but for my generation, and at least for the generation before me, there was a show called The Twilight Zone, and it was so good, so interesting, so thought provoking, oftentimes so well acted, oftentimes so well directed that you just gave it the benefit of the doubt. You would happen upon it on television and say, yeah, this 30 minutes is worth my time. I don't know what show it's going to be. It doesn't matter what show it's going to be. Also, for my generation, the sketch comedy show Kids in the Hall was very much the same way. Also, Tales from the Crypt. It didn't matter where you caught these shows, they were on, and they were so high quality so often. You went ahead and gave them the benefit of the doubt. You would sit down with your potato chip sandwich or whatever it was, and you would just consume that show. This poem, a little bit weird, a little bit strange, a little bit out there, a little bit less than, perhaps, the conceits you would normally get from Emily Dickinson, at least on the surface. But Emily Dickinson is so good, I hope that you'll just give it the chance because there are some things herein worth talking about. This video is part of 3 separate playlists here on the channel. Number 1 being obviously the Echoes of Emily playlist, but number 2 being a playlist of Emily Dickinson poetry discussions, and third, the general playlist for poetry discussions. If you like or appreciate the work that I do here, hitting the like button really does help me out, as it tells YouTube to share this video with other literature lovers. And if you find yourself here by chance but not design, literature is the only thing that I talk about on this channel, dropping multiple videos every single week. So consider hitting the subscribe button to stick around for more literature in the future. Before I got my eye put out, I liked as well to see as other creatures that have eyes, and know no other way. But were it told to me today that I might have the sky for mine, I tell you that my heart would split for size of me. The meadows, mine. The mountains, mine. All forests, stintless stars, as much of noon as I could take between my finite eyes. The motions of the dipping birds, the morning's amber road for mine, to look at when I liked. The news would strike me dead. So safer, guess, with just my soul upon the window pane, where other creatures put their eyes, incautious of the sun. So there's only a couple of talking points that I have here, but I wanted to go through the poem one more time, just so we sort of are on the same page with everything. Before I got my eye put out, I liked as well to see as other creatures that have eyes and know no other way. Before I lost my eye or my vision, we're going to get back to this in a little bit. I was just as addicted to my eyesight. I was just as dependent on my eyesight. I enjoyed using my eyes just as much as any other thing, only I didn't really value it. And so this isn't explicitly said, but implied here. Only I didn't really value it because I hadn't thought of what it would be like to lose it. But were it told to me today that I might have the sky for mine, I tell you that my heart would split for size of me. If you told me today, however, in the wake of losing an eye or my eyesight, and again, we're going to get back to that, if you told me I'd get to look at the sky, I would be rapturous. In fact, so rapturous, I'd be fracturous. The meadows, mine. The mountains, mine. All forests, stintless stars, as much of noon as I could take between my finite eyes. This is what a lyrical um I'm sorry, I am realizing something that I did not put into my notes immediately, but um what a lyrical way to say this idea that I would value everything I looked upon. I would really value everything that I looked upon. I had to adjust the notes. The motions of the dipping birds, the morning's amber road. So here we're just pointing to regular things and asserting that they would be spectacular to look upon. On this next one, we take the next step and talk about motion. We talk about color. We talk about all of these things. So safer, and then we say, for mine to look at when I liked, the news would strike me dead. It is very likely that to be able to do these things would essentially give me a heart attack, would basically give me a heart attack, and I would not be able to put up with it. I would not be able to take it. That is where we are with this poem. So safer, guess with just my soul, because I would die. I would have a heart attack if I was able to savor these things with my vision once again. Upon the window pane where other creatures put their eyes and cautious of the sun. So it's safer that I don't do this, that I don't do this thing that is just so mundane. Other creatures put their eyes in cautious of the sun. Uh, it is safer for me, for my safety, that I do not see these things because I have learned to value them. So, the first thing to talk about here, I. Before I got my eye put out. And I'm sorry you had to see that talking point happen to me in real time. I had hoped to have these things more well prepared, but yeah, it just occurred to me while I was reading this. So before I got my eye put out, this term "eye put out," you can take it literally. Got my eye put out. One eye. Boom. Eye is put out. But I think, and this is just conjecture because I couldn't find anything to back me up on this, maybe this is just because I live in the Midwest and sometimes archaic terms from American pop culture live longer in the Midwest, I seem to notice, than in other places. This phrase, probably the South too, there's a lot of weird sayings in the South that might require some explanation if you are going into them. But this phrase, "eye put out," you've heard that phrase. He should have his eye put out. He had his eye put out. You've heard that collection of words put together. "I put out." Is it literal? "I put out." Is it archaic for the idea of losing vision completely? You can read it either way, but if we go through this poem, it certainly seems to me that our speaker is talking as if they have no sense of sight whatsoever. I am of the opinion that the phrase in this poem, "got my eye put out," is talking about complete loss of vision, not about losing an eye. But we can take it either way. This couplet here where other creatures put their eyes and cautious of the sun. This is an interesting couplet, regardless of whether or not you take the phrase I put out as literal, or if you take the phrase I put out as lost vision. If this individual has no sight, and here, so this becomes a very interesting interpretation, in my opinion. If you are accepting this individual has no eyesight, this individual speaking is blind, then the speaker being blind, but still being cautious of the sun, means that the trauma herein has wrecked them. You can't lose your eyesight again. You're already blind. You're still cautious of the sun. This is a very deep, philosophical, psychological, poetic way of saying those scars from the past can very much affect the you that is here today. However, if our individual is speaking, I had my eye put out literally, saying one eye is done for, being cautious of the sun makes a whole lot of sense, doesn't it? Because now looking into the sun, a sun that can cause blindness if you stare at it, looking into that sun can put out your other eye, ridding you of sight completely. So this becomes a fun couplet, regardless of how you are envisioning this. My French is not up to date, but that last couplet is interesting, depending on whether or not you think that had my eye put out is an archaic term meaning I lost my vision, or a literal term meaning I lost one eye. Now, here is an interesting thing to think about when you are interpreting this poem. Before I had my eye put out, I liked to see. But if you told me I had my vision back, those meadows would be mine. If you told me I had those meadows back, or my vision back, the mountains would be mine. So safer guess with just my soul. Safer guess with just my soul. I do not know. I'm guessing that it would be safer. Safer guess with just my soul. I'm guessing at what these things look like. Here's a very interesting thing about French. The word voir, V-O-I-R, voir, in French, means to see. Before I got my eye put out, I liked as well to voir. Voir. I liked to see. The word in French, avoir, is to have. Before I had my eyes put out, I liked to see as much as anything. But if I had my vision back, if I had my vision back, those meadows, because I could see them, those mountains, because I could see them, would be mine. They would belong to me. They would move from voir to avoir. Now, if I had those things, but I don't, so I have to guess. I do not know. I do not know. I do not have. I do not see. I do not know. To know in French is savoir. And look, If you don't understand the French that's coming out of my mouth, if it is not recognizable to you and you do speak French, it's okay. It's because I speak the finest French. You've been speaking to commoners, okay? I am speaking the king's tongue here. But because I do not know, I do not savoir. See, voir. Have, avoir. Know, savoir. I see, voir. I have, avoir. I know, savoir. All of these things build on one another. To see is to better have. To have is to know. Emily Dickinson walks through all of those words here. I cannot see it. I cannot voir. I imagine that's where voyeur comes from as well, but I don't know. But if I could see them, if I could see, the meadows and mountains would be mine. Avoir. If I could see them and I had them, I would know them. I would savoir. So that is just an interesting way for this poem to be conceptualized. Nihilism, a nihilistic interpretation of this poem, hinges again upon this phrase, but it doesn't have to be conclusive. If I got my eye put out is a term that means I went blind completely. That means our speaker here, speaking metaphorically, has lost sight of those things which are important to her. We are taking this from a weak nihilistic interpretation, saying that nothing could withstand the blow. Nothing was worth anything. This type of nihilism is nihilism as nothingism. Before I had my eye put out, before I lost my vision, I had direction in life, but now I do not. Before I lost sight in one eye, we'll go ahead with that interpretation now. It is having two eyes that gives you depth perception. So if our speaker is blind here, our speaker in weak nihilistic terms is saying, I lost my vision. I am wandering aimlessly now through life, and it's not worth it, right? Because we're guessing at everything at the end. If, however, our speaker has one eye, it's the presence of both eyes that gives you depth perception. Still, you could be wandering towards your goals, wandering towards those things which you find valuable and with merit in life. But with only one eye, you will never know how far away you really are. That is a weak nihilistic take. Finally, a hauntological. Everything in this poem here happens in ifs and used to be's. I used to have my vision and I liked it that way. If I had my vision again, it would be cool. If I had my vision again, it would be cool. If I had my vision again, it would be cool. If I had my vision again, it might be too cool and kill me. There is in hauntology the promised future, the future that is canceled. But the future, what does the term, the future is a term every bit as slippery as the now. That long, awkward pause, then was now, but now is then. The now is always slipping away from us. The future is always closer to us, but never is it here. This poem, written completely in ifs, if I had my vision, I would own the meadows. If I had my vision, it might give me a heart attack. This future of ifs is constantly, inevitably, the future which is canceled. It is inevitably a future that never comes. It is inevitably a future that we never have. Before I got my eye put out, I liked as well to see as other creatures that have eyes, and know no other way. But were it told to me today that I might have the sky for mine, I tell you that my heart would split for size of me. The meadows, mine. The mountains, mine. All forests, stintless stars, as much of noon as I could take between my finite eyes. The motions of the dipping birds, the morning's amber road, for mine, to look at when I liked. The news would strike me dead. So safer, guess, with just my soul upon the window pane, where other creatures put their eyes, incautious of the sun.